Welcome to Travel Secrets with me, Tanya Rose, the podcast sharing wisdom for fellow travellers. Each week, I ask my guests to reveal their 6 travel secrets and the trips and holidays that uncover them. My guest today is the wonderful Welsh actor-singer Luke Evans. And I'm sitting on a sofa next to hunky Gaston himself. I will not burst into song because my dulcet tones are not like yours, and I don't want to upset the fellow listeners. Luke and I met recently at the BAFTA Gala and bonded quickly over our love of travel and also about the incredible hotel that you had just been to in the Maldives, Joe Ali, which we did the launch of. I follow you on Instagram and all your social media, and you're always at interesting locations or far-flung destinations for holidays. So I'm sure you'll tell us more about that. Welcome, lovely Luke.
Thank you.
Before I start, perhaps you can tell us how important travel is to you and how you've become the man today because of travel.
Yes, it's a strange thing because coming from the South Wales valleys, from a very working class upbringing. I'm an only child and we didn't have much money. So the first travel I remember and did until about the age of 11 was caravanning with my mum and dad to Welsh caravan sites and coastal areas of Wales. That was all I knew about travel and I loved it. I mean, it's something about a caravan as a child. It's sort of like a house on wheels and you can park up anywhere and outside is the grass and you can be close to the coast. And that was my only experience of traveling. And I used to love it, the excitement of closing the front door. And my mum always used to say, and my dad, that, you know, the holiday starts the second the front door closes. And I've always felt the same. Even now, you know, when I travel a lot, but I always say, even now that, you know, the second I lock my front door and we get in the car to the airport, the experience begins then, you know, and, you know, wandering around the airport, having a glass of champagne, checking in your luggage, finding your seat on the plane, ordering food, watching a movie. You know, the whole experience for me is from that moment on. And try and embrace the journey home as well. You know, it's sort of like I try and stretch out the holiday experience for as long as possible. Yeah.
My husband is from Wales. He's from Pendine Sands. Do you know Pendine Sands?
Beautiful. Oh my God. I used to go there as a kid.
Did you?
Isn't it? It's up in Aberystwyth, isn't it?
No, I think it is Carmarthenshire.
Yes, so the west coast. Yeah.
You probably know it better than I do.
Stunning.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Do you have a favourite beach or cove that you go to?
Well, there's so many pretty places. I mean, there's some gorgeous beaches in Tenby, Newquay, Cornwall is pretty. But in Wales, I would say the Pembrokeshire coastline, you can't go wrong, really. They are absolutely breathtaking with Caribbean color water and white sand. I mean, you sometimes I show pictures to my friends and go, guess where this is? And they never guess Wales.
I'm actually going in a couple of weeks to, is it Newgale? Newgale. There's a little tiny cottage that's run by Unique Homestays, which is an amazing company.
Oh, wow.
And it's called Smokehouse Cottage. It's literally right on the beach. It's got 3 bedrooms. It's gorgeous.
Oh, wow.
Absolutely
Well,
gorgeous.
when I was there shooting the Pembrokeshire Murders, we rented a house and it was on a like a top of a mountain overlooking Solva, which is this very small little fishing town. And the coastal walks we used to go on while I was there on my days off. My mum and dad came to stay for a weekend and they stayed for 2 weeks. And every afternoon after I finished work or on the weekends, we'd start the coastal walk, which is one of the world's longest uninterrupted coastal paths. It's just the most beautiful place. Even when the sun's not shining, the views, the wind, the sky, you know, the ocean, it's all very dramatic.
Well, I look forward to it. My husband's very excited about it.
Fab.
Let's go into your travel secrets.
Yeah.
So, travel secret number 1. What is the number 1 destination that you think everyone should go to once in their lifetime?
Oh, God. Honestly, this is such a hard thing to answer because I've been to so many different places I didn't expect to go to, places I went for work and ended up experiencing, you know, a life there. But I think one of the top places that I love as a city is Rome. I love Rome. I went there for the first time when I'd done the Mille Miglia, which is the 1,000-mile car race. I did it with Bulgari at the time when I was an ambassador for them, and I drove a 1952 Lancia Aurelia two-stroke car, which was £1 million, and I broke it just outside Rome on the first night. It's a 24-hour race and it's exhausting, and the drive shaft just fell out of it on a roundabout about 3 miles outside of Rome, which was sadly the end of my racing experience. But what I hadn't realized was that I was that close to Rome. So my friend who was with me, Esmeralda, she said, well, let's go and stay in Rome for a day or two. And I was like, amazing, let's go.
Fantastic.
I was in my early 30s and I'd never been to Rome. And I remember checking into this beautiful hotel and walking the streets of Rome. And, we're very lucky. We live in London and we think of London as, old. Well, it's nothing in comparison to Rome. I mean, there's so many beautiful mosaic tile floors that are just normal pedestrian streets that they can't put a rope around them, make them something you look at.
No.
They are just, you're walking on thousands and thousands of years of history. And the architecture is breathtaking, and the weather's fabulous most of the time, and the food is incredible. And I've always loved history and architecture, and cities are just, when you go to each of these cities, they all have an identity of their own. And Rome, for me, it feels like a privilege every time I go there, because you feel you are stepping back into the oldest of times.
Yeah, it's just beautiful, isn't
It's
it?
breathtaking.
I had the most lovely day when I went to Rome. I did the tour of the film Roman Holiday. Roman Holiday.
Yeah.
So I actually went on the back of a Vespa with this gorgeous Italian guy. I had my arms wrapped around him. And they take you to that place where you put your hand in the thing of the Verità and to the Trevi Fountain. And it was absolutely wonderful. I adored it.
Yeah, it's magical. Yeah. It's really magical. And the Spanish Steps. And the last time I went there, we stayed in the hotel at the top of the Spanish Steps.
The Hassler? Or
the Hassler.
Yeah, it's
yes.
beautiful.
And it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Though they gave us a room that overlooked the Spanish Steps, and obviously you're on a hill, so the view is all of Rome.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
All the old terracotta rooftops with the odd dome, which is thousands of years old, and it is a magical place.
Yeah, it's just so beautiful. And the coffee's great, and the pasta's great.
And it's weird, like it's Italy, or pasta's great everywhere, but there's something about Roman food.
Yeah.
There's also a very special piece of salad, which I can't remember the name of. It only exists in Rome.
Oh, really?
And they slice it and blanch it in freezing cold water. It's only for a certain season in Rome. And the last time we were there, it was the season. I don't know what it is, but it is like, it's a mixture of like lettuce, cabbage, and spring onion. It has all those flavors, and you eat it with nothing else, just vinegar and olive oil.
Oh, how delicious.
And I remember we ordered it, and there was a guy he was sitting next to us, and he said, if you eat that with anything else, I'll stab you in the eye. Because the tradition is you eat it alone. I love all that
funny.
stuff.
Oh, that's just marvelous. That really does get under the skin of that destination, doesn't it, when you have local food like that? Fabulous. Let's do travel secret number 2. What's the most unexpected experience you've ever had when you've been traveling?
Unexpected experiences have usually been when I've been in a place for a long period, which usually means I'm working. So, one of the gifts of my job as an actor is if I go and shoot a movie or a TV show in a foreign country, I'm not there for a couple of weeks. I'm there for months. So I have to set up home, and I have to live. I have to feel like I'm living, not just working, because you're settled there for long periods without your friends and your family and your creature comforts. So my most unexpected experiences have been when I've settled into a place and I've become part of the local community. I've found a gym. I've found my favorite restaurant. Usually I don't stay in hotels when I work, purely because the novelty of staying in a hotel is connected to a holiday, as far as I'm concerned. When you stay in one for work, it slightly tarnishes the shine of staying one
when you go on holiday.
As a holiday maker, I mean, there's so many experiences I've had. I mean, the one I remember, well, there's 2 really. One was in Australia for 9 Perfect Strangers. the whole thing in itself was a wonderful experience because the rest of the world and my industry especially were not working, and we were allowed into Australia as one of the first productions during COVID lockdown. We had to do our two-week quarantine, and then we moved to Byron Bay, which is
It's so
one of the most
beautiful.
beautiful, relaxed, laid back, pretty places in Australia. And we got to live there, shoot the show there. And I lived in a little house on top of a hill in the farming area of Myocum, which is just outside Byron. And I lived on my own there, with all these animals, these swamp wallabies and echidnas and cows and bats and a python in the roof, which is a good luck thing apparently.
Not sure about that.
Well, yeah, apparently they keep all the small rodents away.
Oh.
Just the smell of them, it keeps them away, which is a good thing. But yeah, quite a lot to digest on the first day when they're showing you around the house and they say, oh, by the way, there's a lovely python in the roof. Thank you so much for telling me that. That'll be weeks of not sleepless nights.
Rats or pythons? I think I'd go for the python, actually, if I had to choose.
But what happened on that job was that I got to meet people in Byron, and I've now got friends so close from Byron Bay that had nothing to do with the film. I met a guy at the gym called Matt, and he said, oh, what are you doing on the weekend? I said, I'm not doing anything. He said, well, me and my girlfriend are going to go on a boat and we're going to watch the whales because they're just passing by. And so I went and met them on the beach. We got in the boat and we went and floated next to a mum and her baby whale, and then we snorkeled around Shark Island and saw sharks swimming below. And I got to experience a life that, as an actor, you can sometimes just hang out with the actors and go to nice restaurants in the evening and stay within your little compound. But I didn't want to do that. And that's been my ethos on every job. I want to absorb everything and meet people and make connections, not just with the people you're working with, but with, locals who also will open your eyes to lots of other things,
Absolutely. It's all about getting to do things with locals and really under the skin of that destination.
Absolutely. And the same for everywhere I've been. Colombia was another one. I mean, I was there for 9 months.
Wow.
9 months.
What were you filming in Colombia?
Echo 3, which is this Apple TV 10 episode, geopolitical military drama. And when we moved to the jungles of Girardot, which is 3.5 hours through the mountains from Bogota to Girardot, which is this place in the middle of nowhere, I didn't like the places that they'd found me, the accommodation. So I went on Airbnb and tried to find my own. And I found, literally, I was the envy of everybody on the production because I found this house up in the hill with a pool overlooking the whole valley of Girardot, which is jungle, basically, with this sort of like jungle town in the middle. And we stayed there for 4 months.
Wow.
It was epic. We had a housewoman who basically cooked for us, cleaned and looked after us. And she literally became like our mum for the whole time. It was me and my assistant. When I say we, I'm talking about me and my assistant, Jamie, who I travel with. Yeah. He's an old friend who's become an assistant for the last 10 years. And we travel together. It's great because we're sort of old friends. So we keep each other company as well. And I would drive myself into the town where there was an open air gym every day. For the first couple of weeks, the village and the locals were a bit like,
who is this guy?
No, they knew I was. They were freaking out. They were like the guy from Fast and the Furious, But it soon, after a while, I was a regular.
Like,
people they didn't care, and we'd go shopping in the local shops and the local bakeries. And we just tried to live as normal a life as we could, looking very different to the locals. But in this place where I say this to Jamie all the time, we're in random places and I go, we are the only two people we will ever know that will have done what we're doing today or be in this place. And I never, ever get bored of that because I think it's so brilliant to think that my job takes me to places where I would never go, tops of mountains in the snow with military helicopters landing in Lake Tahoe and then in New Mexico. And it's a lovely thing.
It's wonderful that you actually still have that excitement and you just think how lucky.
Yeah, and to embrace it all, embrace the unexpected because when you are in these places for a long time, you don't just see all the glitz and the glam and the nice things they want you to see. You see everything and you have to absorb it all and embrace it all. And And, I soon forget about my creature comforts like jammy Dodgers and chocolate digestives and
Until you
PG
get
tips.
home.
And then the second you get home, I gorge on it all. Yeah, exactly.
Actually, that takes us nicely into travel secret number 3. What's the most overrated travel experience you've ever had?
The most overrated probably would be holidays where you almost 100% guarantee a wonderful time, but something just doesn't gel, something doesn't work out. And for me, it's usually, without naming names, it's usually holidays where everything is planned to the nth degree and you don't have time to adapt or change and feel like you can step out and do something that's not on the agenda. A place where I thought I may not enjoy, but really did enjoy, which was Ibiza. And the first time I went to Ibiza, I hated it. I went to all the wrong places, met all the wrong people, and I couldn't wait to leave the island. And it took me 10 years to go back. And I went back for Kelly Hoppin's birthday one year. She invited me very kindly, and she's been going for decades. And through her eyes and her friends' experiences, I experienced a very different kind of side to Ibiza. Hidden little fishermen's restaurants that you have to drive down a rocky forest road until you come to a little cala where there's pebbles and a small restaurant with 10 tables and sandy floor, and they serve you what they've caught that day. And all of a sudden, my eyes were open to this very different side to the island. And I fell in love with the island that week with Kelly and her friends. And I now own a house on the island.
Oh, you really did a 360 tour.
Well, within 6 months, I'd bought a house.
How extraordinary.
Yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really, you can see things so differently.
So differently.
Yeah.
But it took a different experience to appreciate a place. So my advice would be there, sometimes you need to go back with different eyes, with different energy, with different people. But, it's always about going with somebody that knows.
Yeah.
So, I'm always one for, if you go to a new place, to get a guide. Yeah. Because, you can go to the Vatican and you can look around, but unless you've got somebody telling you, look at this picture, look to the top right-hand corner of this picture, you miss so much. And I think it's nice to come away with some really interesting facts about everywhere you go. And it was the same with Ibiza. Going with somebody who'd been going for so many years, they said, have you heard of this place? I was like, no. Did you know this exists here? No. Have you seen it? And it was just one day after the other. I was like, wow, there's so much to see and so much to do that doesn't, when I mention I live in Ibiza, people think I'm a party animal, and they are so wrong. I know I go to Ibiza to disappear, to relax, to...
Well, they have that part of the island with all the holistic
it's
and
less than
yoga
10% of the island is these incredible clubs, and they are really quite amazing. If you want to go listen to, the world's biggest DJs during the summer season, you can go and dance in these incredibly, well-built, modern establishments where you listen to the best music. But the majority of the island is nature and unspoilt beaches and hikes and discovery. Every
yoga.
time I go.
Do you do yoga?
I don't do yoga. No, I probably should. We did try it once in the house, and I'm too old, too stiff.
Back to the gym for you.
It's painful. The gym is enough for me.
Yeah, and you're
I
very
like to
good
swim,
at that.
but in the mornings. So I get up in the mornings when I'm there. I ride my mountain bike through the forest to the beach, throw the beach on the sand, go for a skinny dip, and then have a coffee in the little beach rest cafe that opens through the summer. Put my clothes on, obviously, and then get back on the bike, ride through the forest, back to the house when most people in my house are waking up, if I've got guests. And then we have breakfast by the pool.
Sounds
it's
heaven.
Like, it's
heaven.
And I do that every morning.
It's
like
good for
the most
you.
amazing little thing that it's become my thing.
Yeah,
I don't want to go with anybody. I just want to do it on my own.
Your meditation time.
Yeah. And it's very, very special. But weirdly, from hating the place to now owning a home.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
And it's my sanctuary.
Lovely. So food and drink and everything is so important to our whole lives. What's the best meal or the best cocktail or the best cafe or the best place that you have found that not everybody knows about? Or it could be even a very well-known place.
Well, food for me is the way to my heart. I mean, I love any kind of food. Fran, my partner, is the same as me. We love to eat out. We love high-end culinary experiences, and we love street food and tasting anything. We are not afraid to try anything. And with the travel that we do, we throw ourselves into any opportunity of tasting something that we may never have tasted before.
Amazing.
Even Spain, by the way, which obviously most of us have probably been to at least once in our lives. Yeah. Fran is Spanish. He's from Alicante. There's a lot of Spanish food I'd never tasted. Shellfish that I'd never seen other than in Spain. Lots of dishes which were completely new to my palate. And, you know, part of my family is Spanish. And so when we go, I taste so many different things. And we often go to places where it feels family run, family made, you know, so fresh clams, almejas, which is what they're called, and just in garlic with potatoes and fresh vegetables and morcilla and all these different sausages. It's morcilla, which is a spicy sausage. It's like blood sausage, but it's not as thick and stodgy as ours. And it's quite a tang to it. Those really strange shellfish they look like fingers, like dinosaur fingers, and they're really, really percebes. Percebes. They're an acquired taste, but also, you know, something you have to try once.
There's an amazing tapas bar in Alicante. My mum lived in Alicante for 30 years.
No way.
And I can't remember the name, but I'll put it in the chat because it's one that everyone can go to. It's not at all expensive. You walk in and honestly, the most delicious tapas that you will ever eat. So I will send it to you. Really good.
One of the most amazing meals I think I was ever cooked. I went backpacking. I just finished Miss Saigon, a year in playing Chris in Miss Saigon, and I went backpacking to Southeast Asia. And we started in Bangkok, and then we did all the islands, Koh Tao, Koh Samui, Koh Phi Phi, Koh Lanta, Phuket. And then we had time, and half of the cast of Miss Saigon were Filipino, and I'd made some very strong connections with them. So we went to Manila, and one of my friends took us to a place called Boracay. And one day we took out one of these boats with a family that had, they're called paraus. They're like a very narrow boat with an arm that goes off the side to keep you balanced. And they took us to this beach. No, before we went on the boat, we went to the fish market on this little island. Fish everywhere. They said, choose whatever you want.
Oh my goodness.
We chose a fish called Sweet Lips.
Nice
it has
name.
These big red lips. And they put it in a bag, went into the base of the boat. We got on the boat. They sailed to this little beach with a derelict ship on it. We went onto the beach. They lit a little fire, put a grill on, and they cooked the Sweet Lips fish. And we ate it with some rice that they brought from their home. Oh, and then they put the ink of the squid over the fish. And we sat there with just, you know, a leaf with our food on, and we ate with our hands.
Delicious.
We'd been cleaned by the ocean, and we sat there and
how heaven. That sounds amazing.
That kind of experience for me is the best.
Yeah, it really is.
The simplicity of flavor, freshness, taste, and cooked by the locals.
How wonderful. For travel secret number 5, what is your best insider travel secret?
Never be too prepared. Never be don't overplan, and don't worry about things not being done when the plane takes off. Your destination will have untold things for you to discover. And if you plan it all just from a book that you've read, you may not have the openness to do something that you may discover when you're there. I think that's the best thing about travel is, and the thing is, I think that when my mum and dad travel, they're much better now, but they used to be very nervous. So what's happening? What time are we having lunch? Where are we going? I have to eat before 7 p.m. Now they don't care at all. They'll just go with me and they go with the flow. We may eat at 7 p.m. one day. We may eat at 10 p.m. the next day. We may sleep until 10 one morning. We may be up to watch the sunrise another. It's to be open to what each destination has that you may not know about. Always ask the locals, what's the best thing to eat? What's the best thing to do? You know, because that's when you really discover things you may not have known.
I totally agree. Go off the beaten track,
take
the wrong alley,
and
then you discover, look up, look around.
It's like Venice. When you go to Venice, you know, you can easily end up a salmon in the middle of swimming with the rest of them on the main stretches. But whenever I go, I just take a left or a right as soon as I can and just walk. And sometimes you come across these stunning little streets that nobody goes to. And then you'll find a little coffee shop and a little restaurant with an old lady serving something that, you know, maybe she has 4 things on the menu. No one knows about it. And you've got to be brave and take those trodden
paths.
not the common trodden paths that people take, because those are the times you really discover something.
I agree. And in Venice, I did exactly that. And I found this beautiful restaurant with 10 tables that was vegetarian only. And I thought, the most delicious food I've ever had. It was amazing. Again, I'll put that in the chat so people can find that, because that's affordable. Anyone can go there. You don't need to be staying at the Gritty Palace. You can go and have a fab
And
meal.
I'll tell you something else. I have a house in Lisbon, which I absolutely love Lisbon. It's just so magical. And we had our parents come over about a year ago. And I booked this restaurant, and we turned up and we walked into this restaurant, and it was awful. It was awful. And I just thought, this is not how I want to spend the evening. So we said, oh, thank you so much, but we're going to take somewhere else. Then it was a Saturday evening. It was bustling. It was summer. And I was like, God, I've now got 6 people and I haven't got a table. Well, we just kept on walking, and I just had hope that we would find something. And then there was this music coming out of this little doorway down 3 steps off one of these little streets. And I thought, let me just go and ask. And they put us in this tiny corner. We were all huddled in this corner. It wasn't enough room for 6 people, but they made room for us. And there was an old lady with a shawl. She must have been in her 70s, and she seemed to be the maitre d', the lady who owned the restaurant. And then a few younger staff, and they were like squeezing between these little tables, passing like homemade dishes, very, very simple food: fish, sardines, potatoes, vegetables, pastel de nata, and cod fish cakes, which is their famous thing. And we sat down, we started eating, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this old lady started to sing. She started to sing fado, which is the national music of Portugal. Spain has flamenco. Portugal has fado, which is beautiful. It's very emotionally, passionately sung. And as she started to sing, then she passed it to one of the waitresses, who just stopped working and just started to sing. I just thought, if I had just sat in that other restaurant, probably didn't have the best time, we would never have discovered this other place.
Did you sing?
No, I didn't. I would love to learn to sing fado, because it's very, very beautiful and very Portuguese. And that's my point. Is like, sometimes just be brave.
Yeah, exactly.
You never know what you discover.
No.
It's not always going to work out, but that night, it's where I send everybody now when it comes to.
What's it called? Do you know?
I have it on my list. So I create a list wherever I go on Google Maps. I make a list of locations, things to see, eat, do. And I have one for Lisbon that I sent to all my friends.
Will you send me the name of that restaurant,
yes, I
please?
Will.
And I'll put it on the chat so everyone can go.
It's super cute.
Thank you. Sounds amazing. So, travel secret number 6. What memory do you have of a holiday or a trip that is still poignant for you now?
It'll always be to do with the beach, because I love beaches. I love the sand. I love the sound of the ocean. It wasn't a holiday, actually, but it sort of was somewhere I was staying, and it was during COVID. I rented a little house in north of Miami, quite north, 2 hours north of Miami. And this house was on a beach that had been closed to everybody, but people that lived in these little houses on the beach could use the beach. So there was nobody for 2 months. It was silent. And my memory of having this beach to myself for 2 months, collecting shells, watching the animals come back to the ocean that would usually be populated with lilos, with speedboats, with jet skis, with people, noise. It was empty. And we would see dolphins, manatees, we saw sharks, we saw animals, fish, shoals, thousands of fish, and then pelicans diving in and gulping, and things that you would never have seen.
So nature was coming back.
Nature was coming back. And it didn't take them very long.
Wow.
They sussed it out. I don't know whether they got the memo, but they were there and they were enjoying it like full on. And I got to experience something that I knew was, firstly, we were in a moment where lots of my friends and family were stuck, at home in the cold, and I'd managed to get out. I remember that as a really special moment of peace and freedom and fresh air, and knowing how grateful I was at that point, knowing what the world was going through. I just felt very, very lucky to be there.
How beautiful. Yeah. Lovely. Finally, I asked you to bring a photograph that summed up travel and a personal memory to you. So can you show us your photo and tell us a little bit about it?
So this is a picture. There are many, many pictures of me in this pose. And it's me in a hammock.
Oh, that's amazing.
I think hammocks go back thousands and thousands of years. They are such a practical, simple invention, but they are the most comfortable thing to lie in. I could sleep in one every night.
Not easy to get in and out of.
Well, there's a trick. bum first and then swivel. But when I lie in a hammock, I'm transported to so many different places where I've led in a hammock throughout the years. And it's always, in the shady, dappled effect of a palm tree or the pines and the breeze slightly swaying you, Mother Nature pushing you, just rocking you slightly. They're just perfect. Hammocks just remind me of calmness and peace and warmth, because you wouldn't sleep in one if it was cold. I have one now. I have one in my house in Ibiza, and I take a hammock when we travel as well, just in case I can find two trees close enough together, just in case they don't have a hammock, because it's just the perfect way after you've been to the beach all day. You come home, you have a shower, and then you sit in a hammock and just drink a sundowner and watch the sunset and just push yourself into a little siesta of an afternoon. Hammocks just are the thing. It's the thing I identify with relaxation. And
heaven, heaven, heaven.
Yeah.
You've had the most wonderful travel secrets. I want to travel with you.
Come.
I'm sure everyone does. There are loads of places that I want to send you. Luke Evans, thank you so much. It's been such a joy.
My pleasure.